This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Lassa fever claims 42 lives in Nigeria's Jos Plateau in barely a month. Legislators in Egypt begin a process that should see President el Sisi's term in office extended. And the Central African Republic to sign a peace deal with 14 armed groups on Tuesday. Hello and welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. Also coming up on the program, Chinese people across the world count down to the year of the pig. And in your sports, Ethiopians dominate the 4th edition of the Lagos City Marathon. Well, let's start in Nigeria, where an outbreak of Lassa fever has been reported in Nigeria. 42 people have died since the first outbreak was reported in January. CGTN Samson Omale reports from Jos Plateau State, where over 40 confirmed cases have so far been recorded.
The outbreak of Lassa fever has become a yearly occurrence in Nigeria. In 2018, Nigeria recorded the highest reported cases in the history of the disease in the country, which peaks from January to April.
So in the first 4 weeks of this year, we've had more cases of Lassa fever detected. We had 70 cases in the last 2 weeks, consecutively more cases than during the same period last year. So we're now focusing on the response, focusing on supporting the states that have a higher burden, make sure they're well prepared to detect, to prevent, detect, and respond to Lassa in our country.
The World Health Organization is scaling up its response to the Lassa fever outbreaks by collaborating with tertiary health institutions to strengthen the rapid containment of the disease.
We've galvanized efforts in responding to any outbreak of Lassa fever. We have a very strong team here of specialists in infectious disease who have managed Lassa over the years.
A center of excellence. We know that a number of cases have been reported in Jos, and this has, of course, is concerning. So far, there's a significant job going on here, and we think if this is continued with the state, the federal government, and partners like WHO supporting that process, we should be able to control the outbreak in a short time.
So we at the NCDC.
The state government has started a sensitization and awareness program for health workers and community leaders to prevent the spread.
So it could be very severe chest pain, stomach pain, headache.
Participants say they are better informed on the signs and symptoms of Lassa fever.
I didn't know that if one has a swollen face, it's also one of the signs of a possible Lassa fever case.
It's not something we should take lightly. It's a call for war.
The hand-washing demonstration that was done by the presenter is so interesting to me, and I intend to step it down to my home, first of all, so that they will actually know, that personal hygiene is very, very important.
Lassa fever has proven to be one of the most significant threats to Nigeria's healthcare system following the annual bout of outbreak of the disease in various parts of the country in recent years. Samson Omale, CGTN, Jos, Nigeria.
Swarms of locusts are threatening Red Sea nations. Saudi Arabia was the first to be hit. Now alerts have been raised in Egypt and Sudan, where other swarms are expected. Egyptian agriculture pest control units have traveled to southern Egypt to purge the expected locust swarms. Here's Adil Mahroui with more.
Egyptian locust control bases near the Sudanese border declared a state of emergency. Swarms that have earlier invaded Saudi Arabia are expected to extend to Egypt and Sudan. This week, Egyptian Agriculture Ministry announced that it stopped the first desert locust attack.
Egypt's move is part of the annual preparations to counter possible penetration of locust swarms that usually come from the south. We have 56 units to combat locusts nationwide, equipped with the latest technologies available. Egypt is an agricultural country. We have 9 million fedans of strategic agricultural products that must not be affected by these pests.
Pests control teams have spread in the southern part of the country to battle the earliest signs of locusts to eliminate them immediately as they appear. Experts say that exceptional rain last October and November have created the perfect environment for locusts' reproduction during their mating season. On 900 acres coastal area, locusts were detected laying eggs 35 kilometers away from Sudan.
We are expecting swarms of locusts to come, but we don't know how big or small. The state is on its highest alert for that. Locusts could be quite dangerous if they manage to breach the country.
Exploration teams are currently inspecting rain and greenery areas to eradicate the pests from their source nests. Ground and air control teams are on standby, and the government has instructed farmers in the area to prepare their pesticides against possible attacks. In 2013, Egypt has seen the largest locust swarm in decades. Some estimated 30 million locusts have attacked Cairo, the Delta and Egyptian deserts. That has created the expertise and the infrastructure that made Egypt quite prepared for this anticipated attack. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And still in Egypt, Parliament has held an urgent session to discuss constitutional amendments. The request was submitted by 20% of the members and includes extending presidential terms to 6 years instead of 4. If passed, it will allow President Abdel Fattah el Sisi to stay longer in office. Adil Mahroui joins us again with the details on this story.
About 125 members of the Egyptian parliament have signed a request to amend the Egyptian constitution. In an urgent session held on Sunday, Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al said the amendments were for the country's greater good. The Constitutional Committee will look into the request. Once approved, the amendments will be subject to open discussion that should take 60 days at the most. Suggested amendments should give President el Sisi more executive powers and will allow him to remain in office longer, as presidential terms will be extended to 6 years instead of 4. After the parliament reaches a final draft for the constitutional amendments, Egyptians will be invited to vote in a public referendum. The vote is expected to take place sometime in May. Discussions for extending presidential terms in Egypt have been raised more than once before. The Egyptian president, however, has repeatedly insisted that terms should not be extended than the 8 years specified in the 2014 constitution. Lately, though, the Egyptian president has indicated that he will not remain in office one day longer than the people's desires. So the upcoming referendum will not just be a vote on a constitution that will guide the country for years to come. It will also be considered the people's word for El Sisi to remain leading the country longer. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
The campaign for the first round of this year's presidential election in Senegal has begun. 5 candidates, including the country's incumbent President Macky Sall, are running for presidency. CGTN's Sadiq Shaban with the details.
Last-minute adjustments at the headquarters of political parties. Each candidate has 3 weeks to rally voters to his social programs. As expected, some politicians have made alliances with candidates who seem to have higher chances of winning the elections. Some opposition parties are hoping to reach an agreement with the 5 men vying for presidency.
We have a governance program that is modeled around a single mandate, that of better justice. Senegalese justice will be revisited, democracy will be strengthened, and the criteria of choice in the administration will be much more rigorous. These are some of the main axes of our program in relation to the vision we have for a better Senegal.
The political climate in Senegal has been relatively tense in the past few weeks. This is due to the invalidation of the candidacy of Karim Wade and Khalifa Sall, the mayor of Dakar, currently in detention.
I hope everything will be peaceful. I have confidence in the security of this country. Senegal has a very efficient security service who will preserve peace and stability in the country. I trust that all will be well.
I hope that the elections will be held in a transparent and peaceful way. But with the tense atmosphere that precedes the elections, we have to be open-minded. If this tension does not subside before the election day, I fear that Senegal will lose its reputation as a stable country.
Political parties are urging those taking part in the campaigns not to incite violence but to conduct peaceful process. They want campaigns that are focused more on the manifestos of the candidates.
What we want are peaceful campaigns that focus on social programs and the proposals politicians have made to the Senegalese. We must not focus on the issue of religion or ethnicity because what we want is good governance and a peaceful community. We are in favor of organizing a debate among candidates where we will discuss this agenda.
Over 6 million people will choose a leader among the 5 candidates on February the 24th. The Dakar region alone is home to more than 1.5 million voters. This year's election will be the 11th since the country gained its independence. The government has organized a budget of about $19 million for this process. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN.
The Central African Republic has reached a peace deal with 14 armed groups following talks in Khartoum. However, a signing ceremony that was expected on Sunday has been pushed to Tuesday. The United Nations says the move potentially ushers in a period of stability in the country. The talks started on the 24th of January and gained support from the UN and the African Union. The negotiations were meant to stem the violence that has spread across provinces which armed forces have had little control over. The terms of the deal have not yet been released, but spokespeople from the government, the African Union and some of the armed groups have expressed optimism about it. The CAR has been rocked by violence since 2013 when mainly Muslim Seleka rebels ousted then-President François Bozize. This prompted reprisals from mostly Christian militias. United Nations peacekeepers have been deployed in the country since 2014. On to Somalia now, and authorities say they foiled an attack on an army base in southern Somalia. This is the first attack on an African Union base by the Somali-based militant group that continues to create insecurity in the Horn of Africa. From Mogadishu, CGTN's Abdulaziz Bilo reports.
Saturday's blast targeted an army checkpoint in the southern Somali town of Bardere. Al-Shabaab claims to have killed 16 Ethiopian troops after detonating an explosive-laden vehicle. AMISOM is yet to comment on the attack against one of its troop-contributing force. Officials in Bardere say the bomber detonated the vehicle after failing to reach the Ethiopian army base. Last week, a statement from the Ethiopian Defense Ministry said its air force had carried out airstrikes on Al-Shabaab bases, killing 35 fighters, among them an explosive expert. With more than 4,000 troops, Ethiopia is among the biggest troop-contributing member country to the multinational peacekeeping force AMISOM, alongside Kenya, Burundi, Djibouti and Uganda. Earlier this week, Tigabu Yilma of Ethiopia assumed the role of AMISOM force commander, a position awarded to top commanders from troop-contributing countries on a rotational basis.
I would say to thank you, the former force commander, to make this kind of commitment. I think this mission is, as he said, a hard, a challenge, but we will do.
Work is there to be done. We have not yet finished our mandate. The task ahead of you is mammoth, but I'm very confident that you can do it. And I thank you and your government for placing you at the head of our mission of AMISOM forces at this very point in time in which we are supposed to implement transition, to hand over to the Somalis the responsibility of security of their country.
Meanwhile, U.S. military killed 13 Al-Shabaab militants in an airstrike near Gendarshe in the Lower Shabelle region just 2 days after another attack that killed 24 militants in the central Hiran region. The U.S. Africa Command says the militants were targeted while preparing for an attack on a Somali government base near Mogadishu. Al-Shabaab has carried out numerous attacks on army bases belonging to all of the African Union troop-contributing countries, killing scores of soldiers and seizing weapons. Analysts say the Al-Qaeda-linked group is the deadliest in the African continent and have based their research on the group's ever-increasing attack patterns. In January, it targeted a high-end hotel in Nairobi, killing 21 people. 2 months after launching a similar attack in Mogadishu, killing 54 people. AMISOM is expected to hand over security responsibilities to Somali forces next year. But based on recent developments, experts say Mogadishu will heavily rely on foreign troops for protection. Abdul Aziz Bilon, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. Chinese people across the world count down to the year of the pig.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what do you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent out his New Year wishes to all Chinese at home and abroad for the upcoming year of the pig. President Xi praised the nation's economy for making steady progress over the past year, saying the government had pushed ahead with its policy of reform and opening up. He added that China had also made notable achievements in poverty reduction and elimination. The Chinese leader called for maintaining social stability and sustainable development, stressing the importance of laying a sound foundation for building a moderately prosperous society. President Xi said that reuniting with family over dinner is a fine example of filial piety. He pointed out that China had become an older society and that the country needs to promote the traditional Chinese value of respecting and caring for its senior citizens. While the year of the pig begins on Tuesday, Chinese families around China and the world are getting ready to celebrate. Earlier, Chinese President Xi Jinping made the rounds in Beijing.
A visit by the president ahead of the Lunar New Year in one of Beijing's oldest hutongs, Caochang Hutong. President Xi Jinping has celebrated with residents in the newly renovated neighborhood. He helped families prepare for the New Year's Eve's feast, write couplets, and put up the red character Fu, meaning good fortune in Chinese. He then took a tour and chatted with senior residents.
It is the party's target to make life better for you all.
Xi also made a surprise stop at a local restaurant and asked the owners how business was. He also stopped at an express delivery station and thanked the delivery man for working during the holiday. In the afternoon, Xi visited the Shogang Industrial Park in the suburbs, where the organizing committee for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics will set up office. He chatted with workers and engineers at the construction site by video link.
I would like to send my warmest regards to everyone still working on the Winter Olympics construction site. Very happy New Year to you all.
He talked to athletes and coaches at the training centers and applauded their hard work. Xi said holding the 2022 Winter Olympics will make Beijing the only city that has hosted both summer and winter games. He urged them to use this chance to showcase China's athletic spirit. Locust, CGTN.
With just hours away to the Chinese New Year's Eve, millions of people have been traveling across China to get home or elsewhere to spend the holiday. The travel rush has reached its peak on Sunday with over 10.6 million trips by rail and over 17,000 trips by air. At the same time, China's neighbor South Korea is also embracing the holiday season with great enthusiasm. An estimated 48 million trips are due to take place during the Spring Festival period. Well, CCTV's Spring Festival Gala, the hotly anticipated variety show held on the eve of the Lunar New Year, is now in its countdown phase. With more than 700 million viewers globally, the grand spectacle has become an integral part of Chinese New Year's Eve celebrations. On Wednesday evening, the gala mounted its fourth rehearsal, with most of the performers participating. Shen Li was backstage for a sneak preview.
It's the final countdown at CCTV Studio Number 1, where dress rehearsals for the annual Spring Festival Gala are taking place. Some are putting on makeup, some are waiting for their cue. Programs featuring crosstalk and witty skits are some of the most beloved parts of the annual gala. Apart from veteran comedians, the show has invited rising talents, aiming to bring more laughter to the audience this year.
I feel honored to perform at this year's gala and see all these talented artists in person. I think the gala is more than just a show. Through the years, it has really become part of the cultural memory of the Chinese people.
This year's gala is expected to see more improvements in various types of programs, while the main genre and forms maintain their traditional styles. This year's Spring Festival Gala will be broadcast on TV and streamed online simultaneously. During the event, there will also be opportunities to engage via TikTok, also known as Douyin, one of the most popular mobile apps for Chinese youth. In the run-up to the prestigious show on Monday, the cast and crew are working vigorously to perfect the timing and sequences of individual acts, and even changing sets. So things remain in flux as rehearsals will continue right up to the day before the Chinese New Year's Eve. Shen Li, CGTN, Beijing.
And coming up in your sports news,